Hello friends, and welcome to this new video of our course Enabling Spring Security on Spring Boot web application. In this video we'll carry on what we have started in the previous video. But first thing I need to draw our attention to is that I made a typing mistake in here. It was written pro-authorized, actually it's post-authorized, so I just want to draw your attention to this mistake and I apologize for that. So it is pre-authorized and post-authorized. Okay, so let's carry on with the video. Now, first of all, it's not necessary that you implement all these annotations on the class level or on the method level. I'm just doing all these things because I need to show you, because this is a tutorial, so I need to show you all what you can do. But in production, you don't have to write all these authorization, of course. So let's see what's the difference. If we say the precedence of the method authorization and the class authorization. If I write pre-authorized, let's say, is authenticated. I use this method, is authenticated. This means that no one can access to the controller unless he or she is authenticated, has a role or has an authority. In this case, no one can access to any method which resides in the controller. So, for instance, this user can access to this controller because it has a role, or maybe it has an authority, also it can access. So notice that if you wish to block anyone from accessing the controller, unless he or she has an authority or has a role, then you can go for is authenticated method. One other thing is that you can use multiple roles in one single annotation. For instance, as we have seen here, with the secured, you can use double, 2 or 3 roles. You just put in brackets and separate them with a comma, and you can use whichever roles. Same thing with the role allowed also, and even with the pre-authorized or post-authorized, you can also add multiple roles into the annotation and apply it on the method or on the class level annotation. Okay, so now let's implement the Spring Security annotations on our web application, the simple one which we have created before. First of all, let's create 2 users. The first user, when we create, we will give it an admin role and we will give it this authority. The second user, we will make it as a user role, but we will give him no authority at all. We will keep the authority as an empty string. Make sure don't put this one as null, because if null you will get an exception. So these 2 users, first of all, we will apply them on them the HTTP security. This line of code will check each user. If this user has this authority, then the user can log into his account page. If it doesn't have this authority, then the user will be forwarded again back to the login page, as we will see in here, to the login page again if the user, and I will show you later. Once we have done these 2 logins, what we expect is that the first user should log in to his account page. The second user should be redirected and should not be logged into his account page because it doesn't have any authority. Once we have done this using the HTTP security, then we will do the same thing, the same checking, by commenting this line, and then we will go to the method Spring Security and we will implement this method or this Spring annotation which is on the same method, on the same resource, on the same page, and we will see the result. It should give us the same result as we have done before. Okay, so let's start dive in. The first thing, as we have said, we create these 2 users. Our database has no users so far, so let's create the first user. This user, we will give it the admin, and with this email and some password and the name in here,
the CAPTCHA, and register. Okay, the user registered successfully. Home. Let's see the user now, if it's been registered. Okay, the first user had been registered, and the role has an admin role with this authorities, 2 authorities. Very well. Let's go with the second registration. The second user is, we will give it as a manager, which will be a user with this email and some password and some other name. CAPTCHA, register. Okay, user registered successfully. Let's go home, and now let's check our database again. See, we have the second user. The second user has a user role and it has no authorities. So now we will implement the HTTP security. What we expect is that the first user, the admin user, should log in to this page because it has an authority. The second user is the manager, which is a user role, should not be able to access to this page because it has no authority, and it should be redirected to the home page or to the index page. So let's do this, and let me show you one thing before we do the login. You remember the login DAO implementation? What we did before is that we checked 3 things for any user. The email, it should be registered. The password should match with what we have in the database. And the third thing is that it should have an authority that we have saved in the database. These 3 things, the email and the password, should match, and the authority. If they do match, all of them, then we will get a true, otherwise we will get false. This true or false, we will use it at the login. If this give us a true, then the user can log into his or her page, account page. Otherwise it will fail back to the index page. Now you can fail it back to whichever page you choose. In my case, this is just a tutorial, so I'm, for simplicity and for time saving, I'm just forward it back to the index page. So let's log in these 2 users. The first user is the info and the password, the CAPTCHA. Okay, the trees, 1, I believe 2 and 3. Okay, login. Okay, this is the first user, managed to access to his account page. Very well. Now let's go with the second user, which is the manager and the password, the CAPTCHA. Okay, the boss, 1, 2, and if I'm not mistaken, this one, verify, login. Now we expect now that this user should not be able to access to his or her account page because it doesn't have an authority, as we have said in here at the login, because this thing is not true. So we will default to a false. If it's false, then we will forward back to the index page. So let's see our work, what it will give us. Login. Okay, we are forwarded back to the home page with a message that says it's a wrong email or password, which is not the case, but in your case you should do this the way you wish. But in my case, I'll just give this message, simple message. Okay, so now the HTTP security is working perfect with our 2 users. Now let's comment this. Okay, we take it out of the equation, and let's go back to this controller, and we go to this routing for the same resource, for the same page, and then now we will use the Spring Security method, the Spring Security annotation, which pre-authorized, has authority, this authority, and we will see whether this annotation, this Spring annotation on this method will work exactly as the same as the HTTP security or no. Now we have commented this, so it has no effect in here, and we expect the effect to be taken on this method level. So we are restarting now the server. Okay, server restarted. Let's do some cancel. Let's go for home page for updating. It seems the server restarted again. Okay, let's wait a little. Okay, the server restarted again. Now let's check both users, the first one and the C1, and we should expect that the first user should be able to access to his account page. The second user, which has no authority, should not be able to access to his page according to his account page, according to this Spring Security annotation which is applied on this method, which applied on this resource. Let's see the first account, the email, the password. Okay, perfect. Now the first user have managed to enter to its account. Let's check the second user, which has no authority, and the password, the captcha, the login. Okay, we have redirected back to the main page, the home page, with this message, which means that this Spring Security annotations have done the same job on this resource as exactly as the HTTP security on this security configuration class. So this how you can apply the Spring Security authentication methods or annotations on the methods level. I hope this is a very basic. Now there is too much into it, into the methods. I will not go deeper. You can dig deeper in this because there is too much into it when we use the methods, the Spring Security annotations over the methods, but I'm just giving you the basic from which you can go on and dig deeper to understand more about the methods. Okay, now reaching this, we have reached to the end of this course where we learned how to implement the Spring Security on a Spring Boot web application using two ways: the Spring Security Configure adapter and the Spring method annotations. I hope you have got a good insight about how the implementation, and I will do the JSON Web Token implementation on the Spring Boot web application. I will do this in a separate course which will follow this course. As I have said in the beginning of this course, that the JSON Web Token is a little bit bigger subject also with the Spring Security. I thank you for your subscription and thank you very much.